Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today, in another news article printed on the War Thunder website, there was a bit of news which is talking about the BR changes. Now, we covered them the other day. There has been a few additions to the list, mainly when it comes to ground vehicles, and also the big news that they're going to be increasing the maximum possible BR for modern vehicles. They're increasing it to 10.3, so it's just an addition of one more BR bracket from 10.0 to 10.3, and they say the reason for this is the technology, or basically mechanics and modern modifications that they added in update 1.91 in the form of thermals, and I'm sure some other stuff. So the idea is because they've added in thermals and added in other ideas along that regard, it is time to bump up some of these vehicles because it gives them such a technological advantage over their predecessors. Now, for me, I've talked about many times in the past that there are many technological advantages between vehicles which are very similar BRs, such as stabilizers being quite a large one, laser rangefinders being another one, a standard rangefinder as well. Now, on top of this as well, you've got smoke grenades, ESS, smoke shells. There are also artillery, I suppose, if you wanted to throw that in. There are many different forms of technological advancements, but for some reason the thermal imaging one is the one that we're going to pick on today as the one which is going to get stuff, upgraded when it comes to their BR. Now, obviously this is a step in the right direction, though I think it is a full step in the right direction. Not yet, but it is a start, which is incredibly positive, especially after the comments which were made in a developer Q&A a few months ago, when it came to the not really requiring, the BR decompression idea. At the time, I talked about the fact that if you look at a lot of vehicles, if you just don't look at, top tier and look at everywhere else, BR decompression doesn't solve a lot of the issues that people are clamoring for. But when it comes to the addition of stuff like thermals to the game, I do definitely think that this is a massive game changer for a lot of vehicles. Therefore, we need to have a massive balancing restructure when it comes to battle ratings. Now that they've added in more night battles as well, night vision is going to be a balancing factor. And one of the, not really hidden things, but one of the things that also came along in update 1.91 was a change to how post-FX settings worked. So you can't just, with post-FX settings, it's a lot harder now to be able to turn night into day. Now you can still do it, it's just harder to do. So that means that night vision and stuff like that is more useful. The only thing that the addition of thermal imaging and also infrared or night vision screamed at me in update 1.91 was not really a highest possible BR increase. Instead, it was the fact that we are once again at a stage where a stock vehicle is so much different to a spaded vehicle. It is absolute insanity. Let's go through an example, right? So we'll just use a premium one because I'm going to use it later on as an example anyway. We can use, let's say, the L44. Would that be a good one? Nah, maybe not, even though there is... Actually, no. Let's use the L44. So even though this is a premium vehicle, we're just going to use it as a basis, just talk about the stock and spaded idea. You can put this into any separate vehicle if you want to, and actually no, you know what, we're going to do the A1A1 so people don't get confused, okay? So the A1A1, if you're stock, you have access to an APDS round, which is a hell of a lot more well, it's useful as an APDS round. It's one of the best APDS rounds in game, but it has nothing on the DM23 when it comes to damage, when it comes to penetration, and just when it comes to overall being able to nuke a vehicle. You also get a Heat FS round with a crazy penetration, HESH round which is kind of useless, and you also get the mobility upgrades, which are massively important for this vehicle. On top of this, you get smoke smoke grenades, you get night vision now, you get a rangefinder, and also you get artillery support. And that's not even talking about parts and FPE. So half of the modifications that you get, I would say, are necessary for this vehicle to be what we would be classed as competitive. So why the hell, instead of looking at making it so a stock version of a vehicle, or a certain type of mounted modifications on a vehicle would lower your BR, whereas when you are fully spaded you would have a higher BR, why are we not looking at that instead of looking at stuff by just increasing things by 0.3? So that's a general point I just want to bring up when it comes to this. I would much rather prefer a focus on the stock versus spaded idea instead of just increasing the max BR once again of these top tier vehicles, because this only really affects the areas of 8.7 to now 10.3, whereas before, the stock versus spaded idea affects the whole game, and it also would affect aircraft as well. We also have seen many technological advancements in aircraft, air-to-air missiles, AGMs as well. Radar have been added as well. When are those taken into account when it comes to the increasing of vehicles BRs to 10.3 and so on and so forth? Now, they do talk about here that the experiment has become possible due to an increased number of players playing in top tier battles, so maybe that has to happen in aviation, maybe that has to happen in fleet especially, to be able to expand the BRs. So maybe that's an issue that we're running into. So when you hit this battle rating table, you actually get this table that you see in front of you. Now you can see that these are basically the additions which were added from last time. We're going to go through them, but one of the funny things was if you clicked on it early, this is what it showed. So you have an extra M113A1 tow. I'm sure this is talking about the Chinese version, which is exactly the same as the Italian version. It's right here. Then you had also a Chinese T-ATU, a Chinese M1A1, and a Chinese Leopard 2A5. Now this kind of confused people, but clarification was asked for, and this was basically a typing error. This was supposed to represent the Thunder League vehicles, which were given out to people who won the tournament in that respect. So these are just, even though these are separate vehicles to stuff like the Leopard 2A5 and the M1A1 Abrams, they are basically the same. They're just copies of those vehicles. So you don't have to worry, that's been cleared up, and this is the actual list. It is still kind of odd that they took away the M11A1, M113A1, and also the other M48A1, the Chinese one, which is right here. It would be nice just to have those in the list, just for enhanced clarification that those are being changed as well. So let's go through the BR changes. The automatic's going up to 9.7. I think this is a completely fine change. It's the best tank destroyer in game, and also on top of it, it can dabble in the form of destroying anything in the air. My experiences in it have been incredibly positive. The APF SDS is great, and you normally are able to get 1 or 2 shots off, even if you don't know where to aim, and you generally can deal with whatever target comes at you. The only problem you have is that you're absolutely massive, but generally you can deal with that fact by just making sure to understand your surroundings. The Falcon is going down to 7.3. Now, this is an interesting one. The Falcon has always been in a very weird place in the game. It's one of these vehicles that doesn't get radar, at least this version of the Falcon, and also it has access to some really nice AA guns, so the 30mm HSSs. They have great muzzle velocity on them, and you also get access to an APDS belt, which only has 1 APDS out of 4 rounds with 110mm of penetration, but that is really enough to be able to pretty much annihilate anything. It also has night vision attached to it, which is definitely interesting, but because of the lack of the radar on it, there was no real reason to take it at 7.7, because as you can see, the British don't have a 7.7 lineup. You have a 7.3 lineup, you have a 6.7 lineup, and then that goes up to 8.3. So the only reason to take the Falcon is if you haven't researched the marksman, because the marksman has, of course, the radar. It also has the 35mm Oerlikons, and I suppose you could say it's a little bit more survivable, but generally that doesn't matter because it's the size of a house. I would have rather had the smaller, lower silhouette of the Falcon over the marksman for that reason. So, the fact is that there was no real reason to take the Falcon ever in a lineup. And with the Centurion Mark 10 going up to 7.3, the Vickers MBT going up to 7.3, and now the Falcon going down to 7.3, this is quite a nice little lineup you've got going on. The Falcon is a good tank destroyer. It's also good at shooting down aircraft, and now you can take it instead of having to take the Crusader AA Mark 1 at 7.3. Why has this gap not been filled? Where is anything? Just give me something. Just give us the skink, or give us something just to put here, which needs to be there. But anyway, this being moved down to 7.3, now you can run it with the Vickers, Ascent, and Conqueror. If you generally run the lineup that I do, which is 3 ground vehicles and then 2 aircraft, I don't think it has space, but if you wanted to drop one of the MBTs, I think you could easily fit the Falcon in. It also means at 7.3, you can bring along stuff such as the Attacker, the Vampire with its bombs. It has the access to the 1000s, which is really nice. And also at 7.3 now, the nice thing about 7.3 is you don't get uptick into 8.7, right? Because 8.7, even with these changes, is still going to be very strong. There's only a few vehicles here that are affected in the 8.7 bracket, and a lot of them have actually gone down. So the 8.7 premiums and the 8.7 vehicles that you see, like the L44 or the A1A1, they're still going to be around. So you're going to have this series of, you're going to have 10.3, and then you're going to have 9.0, because 9.0 you're not going to be up-tiered into 10.3. Then you're going to have the 8.7, where lots of the premiums are, and then that goes down to 7.7, which are going to be up-tiered into 8.7s, and then 7.3 is going to be its own BR bracket, which I'm sure will face a lot of 7.7s, but all of these vehicles can deal with all the 7.7s, and also on top of it, you'll get down-tiered a decent amount into 7.0 and 6.7. So the British 7.3 lineup's looking great. It's looking really nice, and now the Falcon has a reason to be used, instead of just being a worse Chieftain Marksman. The BMP2 is going up to 8.3. In my opinion, this is completely fine. It's very much a serviceable vehicle at 8.3. I actually use it in my 8.3 lineup already, with the T62 and the IS-7, and also the Yak-23, which is a monster in ground realistic. So the BMP2 going up is fine. It's one of those vehicles that you could take it up into top tier and it would still be useful, and that's just because the gun is multi-purpose, right? The gun itself is, you can either use it as a shoot the side of a vehicle and kill it, or use it as a killer for helicopters and also planes, and then it has the ATGM to back it up, which has good penetration. So the BMP2 isn't really BR dependent. It's good at its BR, it's good above its BR. The only issue that it runs into is when, it gets out auto-cannoned, or maybe an MBT looks at it in the face. So 8.3 I don't think will make any difference to it. It'll still get sucked up into 8.7 and probably 9.0 now that that's going to be a slightly dominant BR, because one of the things I've realized is the XM1 isn't being dragged up yet, or at least not in this list. So there's going to be a lot of them running around, and yeah, that's something to worry about a bit. But this going up, it's fine. It doesn't make a difference. And if you do get massively up-tiered, let's say into 9.3, first of all, quantitative matchmaking, so only the maximum of 4 people on the enemy team and the allied team can be at 9.3, and on top of it, you can still use it as a scout. At the end of the day, if you're outgunned, you can always use it as a scout. Those modifications are available to you. The next vehicle is the M113A1 TOW. This is going down to 8.0. I think this is fine. It's the TOW is a very good tank killer, but at the same time it's incredibly limited in what it can do, especially since it starts off with the TOW missile and you get the ITOW as a as a rank 1 modification when you need parts just in case you get hit. So overall, It's nice to see that it's getting lowered. I don't think it will make too much of a difference because it's just one of those machines that already gets taken out by the Orbital. And what I mean by this is, as I said, I normally run like 3 ground vehicles and then 2 air vehicles. So when I look at this setup, what I'm taking alongside it will be the Sedan 25 and the Centauro, and now the M113A1. Well, if you're around for Operation Heat and got yourself the Orbital, then I believe the Orbital is in place of the M113. But at least it gives you an extra option now. At least it gives you a reason to play the M113, where before there was really no reason, because at 8.3 there wasn't a lineup. So you had to drag it into 8.7, or you had to up to your 8.0s. The 8.0s can actually get up to okay, you know, like the Centauro is really good, especially now it has the scouting modifications and thermals. Remember, the Centauro has thermals, so yeah, it's kind of weird how that one isn't going up, especially after them talking about thermals being a massive addition to a lot of vehicles. The IT1 is going down. There's a theme to this list. There's a lot of ATGM launches, raw ATGM launches, so not scouts, just basically stuff that fires ATGMs. They seem to be going down. So a lot of the OG ones, the Rakuten Jagdpanzer II, the Swingfire, the IT1, all of these are decreasing in BR. And I think it's because, if you remember back in the day, the IT1 was an incredibly annoying vehicle to deal with, and the reason for that is because there was no countermeasures for it. It was able to batter you with its ATGM, it was able to fire on the move and just go crazy with it, and also it didn't have a lot of the additions that we have in the game right now. So the first big thing which made ATGMs a lot, worse was the advent of APF-SDS. APF-SDS meant that an ATGM was a lot slower than an APF-SDS shot, and coupled with the changes to the sound mechanics which happened in 1.89 and also 1.91 when that came out, you could hear ATGMs from a decent way away. On top of this, I believe in 1.89 the physical property of the ATGM flying through the air became physical, so you could knock it out of the air with machine guns, meaning that the main reason why you picked the IT1, you could stop with machine guns. Then the advent of smoke when it comes to grenades, launches, ESS, making ATGMs not as useful, and also now the advent of being able to knock out this little bit here, the little area which holds the ATGM, meaning that you can't fire the ATGM, and also battle gears being added in. The IT1 doesn't have a battle gear. You can fire the ATGM at any speed, but when we look at a lot of other ATGM carriers, like the Swingfire would be the one that I would point to. The Swingfire, if you have a look at it, once you go over a certain speed, I don't think you're able to fire the missile, which is a definite problem for it. Let's see. Yeah, like it has a battle gear of around 3 kilometers an hour, so this means that you are able to shoot if you want to, like this, but if you go over that, you are not able to shoot. As you can see, it says stop the tank to fire. So that was another addition to ATGM carriers that made them more realistic, but also was a nerf to them. So we've seen all of these additions which have hurt these ATGM carriers, so therefore seeing them go down is not a surprise. The IT1 going down to 8.3, the Rakuten going down to 7.7, I would actually change that to 8.0 personally, because the Rakuten has an advantage over a lot of these other ones. So if you don't know what the Rakuten is, it's this one right here. The nice thing about the Rakuten is, first of all, it has access to 2 missiles, so if you screw one up, you can shoot the other one. And also, even though the missiles are keyboard guided, so you can see here, whoops, there you go, you can flip it around the target. Even though they're keyboard guided, they're slow enough to be able to go in and out. You can see me going up and down here. Really enjoy controlling them. But the other thing is, as well, is because you're able to fire 2, if you screw up one, then you'll still have one to be able to hit the targets with. The other thing as well with the Radeon is the commander's view, or the gunner's view. The gunner's view, you can see, is attached to this little sight here. So what you can do with it is you can sit it behind hills and fire over the hill at enemies and be able to hit them. So that's incredibly useful if you're using this vehicle. The ATGMs themselves are also good enough to, you know, be useful at hitting targets and doing a lot of damage to them. A lot of explosive mass involved in these. So I would actually say for this one, also the speed is crazy on it. So for this one, I would actually put it at 8.0 instead of 7.7. I know it'll see more play at 7.7 because we have the addition of the M48A2C, but the M48A2C is going down to 7.3. So you're going to have to run it with the Leopard instead, which is fine. You know, it'll still work, but I would put it at 8.0. That would be my opinion. You're lowering everything else down by 1 BR bracket. Why is this one going down by 2? The swing fire going down is completely fine. It's the way that the ATGMs work on it, how they have to go upwards and downwards, and also the fact that they always overcorrect going down is a real problem for it. So therefore, I'm fine with that going down. The Radeon Jagdpanzer II Hot going down, I think, is fine as well. I would have probably waited on that one with these new increased 10.3 BRs just to see where it sits, because of the fact that that one is mouse aimed, the hot missiles are insanely good, and it also has all of the advantages that I pointed out on the Radeon Jagdpanzer II when it comes to its aiming. You can just sit it behind a hill. The other thing as well is the M901. Now the M901 is another one of these where it has thermal sights, you know, if you unlock them, as you can see right here, but it has so many other issues with it right now, which mean that the thermal sights, even though they are a nice upgrade, the problem is not that. The problem is they changed this battle gear. So you know how we talked about before, you have a certain battle speed that you can't go over, so you can't fire your ATGMs. Well, the battle gear for the M901 is about 1 kilometer. You can see here. It goes red instantaneously, so you pretty much can't fire on the move. What also is annoying is every machine with ATGMs has, or that has like one of these limiters on it, meaning that you can't, you know, move while firing, has a battle gear attached, so you can still, you know, move at the maximum speed while you are setting up your missiles, and you can still fire. Bradley is a good example of this. The battle gear on the M901 has not been changed from when the battle time changed from the M901. So it doesn't actually match up with when you're actually allowed to fire. So this is a bug which needs to be fixed, and it's an incredibly annoying bug because it means using this thing as an ATGM platform is incredibly hard to do because, well, you can't move without, you know, the aimer going all over the place. You basically have to just be a stationary bot to be able to push forward. So yeah, on this thing and then on stuff like the Bradley, it's very important to make sure that battle gear is correct, and unfortunately right now it is not correct on the M901. Being at 8.0 though does mean that you can run it with the Bradley, and I don't know why I would ever take the M901 over the Bradley now. The Bradley has the 25mm, it has the ATGM, it has a battle gear which actually works. You know, the M901, at least before, it had thermals, and I believe the Bradley also has thermals, right? But it had a smaller silhouette, and it also meant that I could sit it behind stuff and be able to, you know, shoot people as you go. And yes, it does have thermals. So that is another vehicle which is not adhering to their idea, which is now it has thermals, it needs to go up in BR. That's just not happening with this. This should be more about we are moving some of the AAs and the ATGM carriers because they're out of business. So you can see the battle gear of the Bradley works perfectly. I can still fire when its battle gear is going, which is great, and means that I can blow up targets as I go. So hopefully, you know, that's a market skin, by the way, a very nice market skin. So yeah, I can understand why all of these are going down, and apart from the, you know, the one which is going up, the BMP2, I can also understand that, even though I think all of them are completely fine changes. Holy hell, the MTCA finally that thing is going up, and hopefully some of its friends join it as well. The OF40 MTCA, and this, I talked about this when it first entered the game. A lot of people got very annoyed at me for it, and I really don't care. The OF40 MTCA is a better version of the Tech Tree OF40. It's as simple as that. If you look at the two ideas, so the OF40 Mark IIA gets access to DM23, has a laser rangefinder, has NVDs, smoke grenades, all of this. The MTCA has all of the same stuff, but it also has a better engine. So it is just flat out better than its Tech Tree counterpart. There's no question. There is no debate. At least with like the AMX30 Super, you know, you can compare it to the Brennus. You can say, well, with the Brennus, you know, you've got the night vision like you have on the Super. It's got some extra ERA on it. Yeah, it's lacking the stabilizer and speed, but you can at least have an argument there. With this one, with the MTCA, there is no argument. It is just flat out better than its Tech Tree counterpart. So seeing it go up is wonderful. It doesn't have thermals though, only has night vision. You want to know the two 8.7s that do have thermals, which are premium, which also need to go up to 9.0? Ah yes, I'm looking at you, Leopard. Welcome to the Gong Show once again, L44. Always wonderful to see you. This is also better than its Tech Tree counterparts because it gets a laser rangefinder. It also gets access to thermals now, and also obviously starts in a spaded condition. The rounds are also arguably better on this machine as well compared to the A1A1. Therefore, in my opinion, this should also go up to 9.0 with the MTCA because it is better than its Tech Tree counterpart. And I hope that the MTCA is a sign of things to come when it comes to vehicles like this. There's also another vehicle, of course, the Super. Now, the reason why I was kind of okay with the Super when it was first added to the game. As I said, with the Brennus, it's got the 20mm, that's very useful. It's also got the ERA, but the Super has the stabilizer and the engine. So you could definitely say that the Super was better than it, but there was an argument there. When you are adding night vision to the Super, and yes, as I said, the Brennus also has night vision, but when you're adding night vision to the combo of the stabilizer and also the engine power, I think this does make it drastically better than the Brennus. Therefore, I would like this machine to go up as well, in accordance with the MTCA and also the L44 and also the XM1, which is now sat at 9.0 and hasn't been, is not in the list to go up yet. The XM1 also has thermals, you know. It also is a machine that has thermals, so therefore it should either go up to 9.3 or it should stay at 9.0. And then what becomes the dominant BR is 9.0 if all of these, you know, if all of these things go up. If all of these interesting premiums go up to 9.0, which would be in accordance of what, you know, Gadget have done in the past, basically what you have is you have a max BR of which is 1.3 higher than the top premiums. The reason for this is people buy the premiums and they don't have to be basically yeeted into top tier. What you get is a little bit of a break from it, apart from with the XM1 because it was too powerful, and therefore it's set up a scenario where, you know, you could actually have a dominant BR premium at 8.7. Why not just make them 9.0? So then you can free up some of the 7.7s to be able to have fun, and also the 8.0s and also the 7.3s to actually have a BR by themselves without being accosted by stuff like the L44, the MTCA, and also the AMX30 Super. Then we have some of the other ones, so the TADU, the ADATs, the Leclerc, the Ariete PSO, the Leopard 205, the Ariete, and the M1A1 Abrams. So all of the best versions of the Tech Tree vehicles for each of the ground forces nations, which are very good. No Challenger 2 here, as you can see. That's missed the pecking order. So all of these are going up to 10.3. This is only positive. There is no negative here. Seeing these vehicles stomp stuff like 9.3s and 9.0s for the longest time, and also with the addition of thermals, these machines should be fighting themselves, and then we can actually work out what is balanced, what has to be added to each of the tech trees to be able to make the game a little bit more balanced at top tier. So putting up their BRs, it can only be positive. I hope, as I said at the start, this is a sign to come. I would eventually like the extension to be to stuff like 10.7 and then maybe 11.0, and after these positive changes for the ground vehicles, hopefully we see in the aviation side of things the same positive changes, especially with the advent of the new helicopters coming in, which already are incredibly, the premium ones are incredibly good, like the Eurocopters, and also it seems to be some form of Apache coming, and of course the KA-50 with its insane secondary and primary loadouts. So hopefully this idea spreads across the board. Right now, this is positive though, a good step in the right direction. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Daniel Stanton, John Ryman, Joseph Anders, Martinez, Mopar 1969, Moxie, Super Cacti, Uyans Terry, and Elove Goats, and of course Seductive Trash Can for supporting the channel.